All right, welcome to the show, y'all. We have a very, very weird one for you today. You do not want to miss today's show. We're going to get to a lot of stuff. So in just a second, look, it's just true that the Charlie Kirk story is not adding up. I'm going to walk through it with you. We got contradictory information. We got stuff all over the map. We got things that make zero sense. And so it'll be a very deep dive, and you might walk away from this first segment here more confused than you are satisfied. So we'll talk about that. Then we'll get to MAGA has decided to put the cancel culture on steroids and human growth hormone. Not only are they getting people fired for mildly criticizing Charlie Kirk, they're also getting people arrested for criticizing Charlie Kirk. I'm not kidding. I've never seen anything this extreme when it comes to cancel culture. So we'll dive into that. We'll also get to a Fox host casually decided to call for the genocide of homeless people. The fascism is just oozing out of this country now. It is just over the top with how much it is. So we'll talk about that as well. Then we have Bill Maher dismantling Ben Shapiro to his face. We have Destiny humiliating the streamer XQC in a Charlie Kirk debate. And then later on, this is wild, but the BBC is blaming Hassan, Destiny, and Vosh for Charlie Kirk's death. I wish I was kidding. I am not kidding. We have the video. We have the clip. So you don't want to miss that. You guys know the drill. Everybody, please do me a big favor and subscribe to this channel. That helps out big time and costs you nothing at all. You can also support the show on Patreon. Thank you to everybody who does. Remember, this is real independent media, so we're reliant on small dollar donations from people like you in order to keep it going. I've never talked to an advertiser, never done an ad read, never talked to a billionaire or a PAC or anything like that. Very proud of that, and you guys have made it possible for us to be independent. You could also sign up for Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. That link is below. We had a great interview with Joyanne Reed last week. You definitely want to check that one out. And everybody tune in to the Corn's World YouTube channel and go subscribe over there because we do live Kyle and Corn episodes. We try to do them every Monday night at 8:30, so we should have one tonight as well. I haven't heard from Corn yet, but we've been pretty consistent, so we probably will be doing it. But anyway, I look forward to that. Go subscribe to Corn's World. All right, guys, let's jump into it because, like I said, we got a lot to get to. Last time I talked to you guys, I was pretty convinced that the person who did this shooting is far right. I was pretty convinced. Now I'm going to walk through it with you why I was convinced that the person is far right. But also, now I'm not so sure because I keep coming back to professional hit job. This looks professional. There's so many things that don't add up and make no sense and are contradictory. The official story just crumbles in on itself immediately. But let's start with this because Kash Patel, and everybody knows this, he's been failing at this job miserably. It's actually kind of embarrassing. He did this like fucking victory lap. Meanwhile, the FBI had nothing to do with getting this guy. Like, his dad and a youth minister turned him in effectively, and Kash Patel didn't know his ass from his elbow. He was sitting around with his thumb up his ass, waiting for some breakthrough, and it happened, and then he goes and does a fucking victory lap after they get the guy based on nothing that he did, right? And then he had that weird moment where he said, "I'll see you in Valhalla," which is like, that's pagan Norse mythology, and he's a Christian. I know this is like big in like white nationalist circles and shit, but you know, you're supposed to keep that part on the low, you idiot. But anyway, so let me show you this from Dropsite News. According to the New York Times, FBI Director Kash Patel is under fire after missteps in Kirk manhunt. Patel convened 200 agents, blasting delays and vowing no more Mickey Mouse operations, laced with profanity, according to officials. He falsely declared Charlie Kirk's killer was in custody, then backtracked hours later, undermining confidence in the probe. Critics cite his inexperience, social media fixation, just like Dan Bongino, by the way, and purge of veteran agents as weakening the FBI's response. That's a huge part right there. Patel and Deputy Dan Bongino flew to Utah to oversee the investigation as pressure mounts on the Bureau's leadership. So as you all know, and we discussed this in one of the previous segments, you have like the lead FBI agent in that particular region in the country was fired by Kash Patel. And why did you do that? Now you have no veteran leadership for this super important investigation. And so they're delaying shit and trying to get in front of the cameras and trying to please their MAGA base. They're getting ahead of themselves and there was trans stuff on the bullets. No, there wasn't. It looks like they're so desperate to blame trans people. They're grasping at anything they can to blame trans people. But the amazing thing is, even MAGA is looking at Kash Patel and they're going, "You're an embarrassment. You're not fit to do this. You have no idea what the fuck you're doing. You have no idea what you're doing. You're in way over your head. All right, so Kash Patel absolutely, positively failing miserably. All right, now let me walk you through why the original view is that, this shooter is definitely right-wing. So first we have this. Originally from the Daily Beast here. Tyler Robinson, of course, is 22. He did the shooting. The man arrested in connection with the assassination of Charlie Kirk comes from a MAGA family his grandmother has revealed. Although MAGA figureheads have been quick to point fingers at the left for Kirk's death, Tyler's grandmother, Debbie Robinson, 69, insists they come from a family of Trump supporters. She spoke with the Daily Mail on Friday after news of Robinson's arrest broke. Quote, "My son, his dad, is a Republican for Trump. Most of my family members are Republican. I don't know of any single one who's a Democrat." According to the outlet, Robinson's father, 48 years old, was the one who turned Tyler into the authorities after he confessed to the grisly crime. Debbie has not been able to get in touch with her son since news of her grandson's arrest went public. So according to the grandma, they're all Republicans. Every single one of them is right-wing. And as many people have pointed out, it's kind of hilarious that she was more offended at the idea that perhaps Tyler was a leftist than she is at the fact that Tyler killed Charlie Kirk. Take that for what it's worth, but this is what the grandma says. All right, so that's point number one. Point number two, there's this Groyper meme and far-right Nazi meme. So this is the meme right here, and he dressed up like this for Halloween in 2018. So this was like a big piece of the puzzle where it's like, oh, you don't do this if you're some lefty. All the Pepe shit in 2018, it was 100% on the right, and it was on the far right, to be clear. Of course, you also have, Halloween, I believe the year before in 2017, Tyler dressed as Donald Trump. He dressed in a costume where he was like riding on Donald Trump's shoulders. So all of this stuff comes from right-wing culture. It comes from far-right, deep internet culture. So this was strike two, effectively. Then we have this. The Groyper antennas are vibrating on 4chan. One person says, Groyper confirmed. Nick is so fucked it's unreal. Another person says, we were so convinced it was some Latino T-word for a trans person. The slur for trans person. Is he our guy? Okay. So now they seem to think, oh boy, he fits the profile. Then we also had this. People were saying what was written on the bullet casings, right? You had, hey, fascist, eat this or something like that. Or hey, fascist, catch was one of the things it said. Another one was Bella Ciao, and repeating that over and over. And there was one other. But people were saying, oh, the Bella Ciao thing, that's all, or Ciao Bella thing, that's all an anti-fascist song from back in the day. And so this was further evidence that he's anti-fascist, right? Well, come to find out, as Mike from PA points out, more evidence that Groyper's followers Nick Fuentes used Bella Ciao as an in-group meme prior to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Nick Fuentes is the leader of a far-right group, the Groypers, who declared a Groyper war on Charlie Kirk and had been stalking him for 5 years. As you can see, the name of this account was America First Ciao Bella, and they write a message to Nick in that vein. So the whole Bella Ciao thing, even the hey fascist catch thing, you would think that definitely indicates that he's left-wing. No, it's actually from a video game, and this guy is very steeped in video game culture. And the other thing they do, these sorts of shooters, it's all about signaling to the in-group that they're with the in-group. So it's all memes. It's all memes. And some of the stuff may code left-wing, but that's for nothing other than in-group signaling and to almost throw people off the scent of the true motive. And so normies are like, oh, well, obviously this was a left-wing shooter. It was Charlie Kirk who was shot, and they said stuff like, hey, fascist catch. But as soon as you scratch a little beneath the surface, you find out it's actually way more likely that it's a far-right shooter. I don't want to be the first person to point this out, but to gamers, Bella Ciao was not a song sung by anti-fascists, but a collectible and the background music in a main quest in Far Cry 6, which is probably real relevant given his other gaming references. So, yet again, the whole Bella Ciao thing, hey, fascist catch thing, it sort of falls apart as soon as you dig a little deeper. So then we also get this. People were asking Grok, hey, based on the evidence, what do you think here? What's this person's political leanings? And Grok said this. In my view, these inscriptions on the ammo casings, notices bulge, ooh, oh, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, catch this fascist, and if you're reading this, you are gay, aren't random or left-leaning signals like some early reports claimed. Instead, they trace Tyler Robinson's political beliefs squarely to the fringes of the alt-right, specifically the Groyper movement led by Nick Fuentes. This crowd positions itself as hyper-patriotic, pro-Trump conservatives who see mainstream Republicans like Charlie Kirk as sellouts or fake conservatives infected by globalism, liberalism, or even fascism light. The bulge's oh whoa bit is a crude, mocking nod to transphobic memes that originated on Tumblr but got co-opted by right-wing trolls to spot trans people in crowds. Pure Groyper-style bigotry. Bella Ciao it goes on, but you get the point here. AI seems to think, well, this is obviously a far-right shooter. By the way, I should also point out the notices bulge thing. It's a nod to transvestigating people, right? This far-right thing, which is transvestigating people. It's not notices bulge, singular, which is like a furry thing. It's notices bulges, plural. And that distinction actually means it makes a difference, okay? Now, I know I'm getting into the weeds here, but bear with me because I'm giving you all this evidence as to why I and many people thought, oh, this is definitely a far-right shooter. But I'm going to throw some curveballs at you in a second, and you might be going, well, maybe not. So wait for it. All right, so now we're going to get to the murky parts. Robinson responded to his father, saying he would rather die by suicide than turn himself in, prompting his father to call a youth pastor close to the family, the sources said. The pastor and Robinson's father tried to calm him, according to the sources. The pastor, who is also a court security officer, called the U.S. Marshals Service. So, as this person points out, this is much murkier than some sanitized account of his dad doing the right thing. It's a very weird story. So, you confront your son and say, hey, did you do the Charlie Kirk shooting? It kind of looks like you. Then the son goes, yeah, I did, but I'd rather kill myself than turn myself in. And then the dad contacts some youth pastor, youth minister, or whatever, and the youth minister gets in contact with the FBI. Like, I don't know, this story is very weird. But it's going to get a lot weirder. Okay, so TMZ released this clip, which I'm about to show you. Now, this is Tyler. He's walking to the event where he's about to shoot Charlie Kirk. And you're about to see, take note of, number one, how he's dressed, but number two, how he's walking. Because this is going to be super important because you're going to understand why he's walking the way he's walking with this massive limp. All right, so here we go. So he's walking up the street. No, very, very noticeable limp. Why does he have that noticeable limp? Because he has the rifle that he used down his pant leg. And so he can't really straighten that leg out. So he's, hobbling along here, limping along here. The other thing to take note of is he clearly didn't park in the parking lot of the college. He parked elsewhere and then walked there. And this is him, I think, after the deed is done, walking through the back. But okay, so you saw what he was wearing there. Black shirt, jeans, walking with a massive limp. Okay, ready? Now, according to the official story, he goes there with a gun, right? But then, okay, well, this is weird because, as I'm going to show you, here he is, like, walking up the stairs to get to the roof. Where's the gun? Where's the gun? Where's the gun? Now, what they say is, okay, so he walked there with the rifle. Clearly, based on the TMZ video, he was limping, right? Okay. Then when he gets there, in order to get to the roof with the rifle, he disassembles the rifle and puts it in his backpack. Now, there's one major problem with that story. This particular rifle that he used is notoriously difficult to break down. In fact, it takes tools, it takes know-how, and it takes time. There's not really a rifle that's meant to easily be broken down and put back together. So he goes there clearly limping with the rifle in his pants. Then in this picture, in the stairway, all of a sudden, where's the rifle? Well, they say, oh, it's in his backpack, so, that's the logical explanation. All right, well, let's keep going. So then, according to them, he gets to the roof, puts the rifle back together, does the shooting. There's also, I'm going to throw another curveball at you. He shows up in a maroon shirt, they say. This is what the officials say. He shows up in a maroon shirt. Then he puts on this black shirt. Then he gets to the roof and puts back on the maroon shirt. Then he finishes shooting and puts the black shirt back on and leaves. Getting a little weird, but wait for it. Okay, wait for it. So here he is after the shooting. This is when he escapes. And you're going to see that he basically runs on the roof. And you're going to take note of something very important in just a second. So here, let's play it. He's running on the roof. Where's the rifle? He's holding something, but it's not the size and shape of a rifle. Okay, so let me go back. I'll play that one more time for you. So he's running on the roof, and you're going to notice there is no rifle in sight. There's no rifle in sight. Ready? He's running on the roof. There's no rifle there. He's running normal. He's not limping. He's got something in his hand, but it's not the size and shape of a rifle. Okay. Now, here's what they say. They say, oh, well, after he did the shooting, he disassembled the rifle, and that's why he's not running with a rifle there. Okay. All right. Well, then here's the question. The feds also say, we found the rifle in the woods, and it was put together. It was fully put together. So according to them, he shows up with the rifle assembled, walks to the school with the rifle assembled, hence the limp with it, with his jeans there. Then he gets there, disassembles it to get to the roof, assembles it again on top of the roof, shoots, disassembles it immediately after he shot. In other words, they say he didn't run right away. He shot and then he disassembled it, which takes time. Then he runs with the disassembled rifle, jumps off the roof, and then he assembles the rifle back together and leaves it in the woods for the feds to find. I'm sorry, man. That makes no fucking sense. 0 sense. Something is really fishy with this. Now, I need you to understand something, guys. I'm not even doing the whole read between the line things. I'm just telling you, this is what they say happened. Now, I briefly mentioned what he was wearing before. Again, I want you to listen to, this is the governor of Utah, and here's what he says, because people in the media were asking, hey, what was he wearing? Why are the accounts differing? Here's what the governor says. Ready?
So when he's first spotted on campus, he has different clothing on, and then he changes clothing on the roof, and then changed back into that clothing at some point, so that when he was apprehended, when he was arrested, the clothing matched the clothing he had on before the shooting here.
All right. Here's CNN. CNN says this. Several clues pointed authorities to Robinson, his clothing, a dinner conversation he had with a relative, and comments he made on a messaging platform. Less than 4 hours before the campus event that featured Kirk as a speaker began, Robinson arrived at UVU in a gray Dodge Challenger wearing a plain maroon t-shirt, light-colored shorts, a black hat, and light-colored shoes, citing the UVU surveillance footage. Why haven't they released that footage? We don't have a single picture or video of him wearing maroon. Not a single one. Why haven't they released that? He later changed his clothes on the roof and then jumped down, leaving palm impression smudges that authorities hope to collect DNA from a shoe imprint, according to a police affidavit. At some point, Robinson changed back into the same clothes he arrived in. Very weird. Oh, he showed up wearing the maroon, then he puts on the black, then he changes back into the maroon on the roof, and then changes back into the black when he leaves? I genuinely don't understand what's going on here. The other thing is, again, with the weapon, at the same time he's changing clothes seemingly multiple times, he's also assembling and disassembling the rifle, not only multiple times, but at very bizarre times, too. Like, right after you're done shooting, you have to take the time to disassemble it, and then you reassemble it in the woods. I'm sorry, man, that just doesn't add up. That just doesn't make any sense. All right, let's keep going, because I got a lot more to get to with you. So, right now, what should be going on in your mind is, well, clearly the truth is not, they're not, whatever their official story is obviously bogus. Because it just doesn't add up. It just doesn't make sense. Now, does that mean I know what the answers are? No, of course not. I'm just as lost as you guys are. But I'm relaying to you what they're saying, and that doesn't make any fucking sense. So now, here we are. This is somebody who went to school with Tyler Robinson, and he's just going to tell you what his impression of him was. Here we go.
I went to school with this Tyler Robinson kid. I'll show y'all. That's him right there. Tyler Robinson. I'm not trying to clout chase, make this shit about me, but I'm not gonna say I knew this kid really well. I didn't know him very well at all, but I definitely saw him for 3 straight years in high school. And the best way I could describe him is just like a Reddit kid. I don't know, I feel like if you were in high school around that same time, and even probably now, 2018, and then those kinds of kids, but that's exactly what he was. All I'm gonna say is this is the kind of shit that happens when you spend way too much time online, and all of a sudden your beliefs are all the way this way or all the way this way, and you do some dramatic shit to please these people that are not your friends. This internet shit is seriously no joke.
All right, we also have this. FBI agents are investigating footage which allegedly shows Charlie Kirk's assassin, Tyler Robinson, on the phone with a possible accomplice. Okay. So The Guardian had come out and written an article, we talked to somebody who knows Tyler, and they said, Tyler was a leftist. Then, very soon thereafter, they had to retract it. Ron Filipkowski says, this Guardian quote from an anonymous person who said he knew Robinson in high school years ago, but hasn't spoken to him in several years, who said he was supposedly a leftist, has been retracted. This single anonymous quote has been posted by thousands of right-wing accounts. So the right is desperately trying to make this about trans people. And if they can't do that, they're just trying to make it about leftists. And so far, everything that has come up in that vein has immediately been swatted down, debunked, destroyed. I mean, they were saying it was a trans shooter. You had 4chan docs 2 or 3 different trans people saying, this had to be the shooter, and then it wasn't the shooter. So they're going after trans people, they're going after leftists, and then boom, one of the centerpieces of the arguments that they're using has to be retracted because the Guardian could not verify, couldn't back it up. In fact, I think the person who said it had to say, "Oh, my bad. I didn't mean it like that. That's not what I was saying." All right, this gets weird, y'all. This gets weird. So remember how I told you guys there were two decoys, two diversions in the crowd. And that's reported by mainstream sources that there were two people of interest that they were looking at that they thought were suspects, they thought had done it. One person was this older guy who screamed, shoot me, and I did it, okay? And when they were dragging him out, the cops were dragging him out, his pants had actually fallen down. And that happened immediately after Charlie got shot. You got this old guy saying, I did it, shoot me. Very weird. And then you also had somebody else on campus who had a pellet gun, which looked like a real gun. So all of that played the role of like distracting so that the shooter could get away. It distracted the cops and made them think, oh, these are the people. And so the shooter got away. Well, then people tried to do a little digging on this older gentleman who was saying he did it. And if it is indeed the same person, and I don't know, but you know, when you look at pictures, it looks like the same person, right? But I would like further verification on this, but my guess is no mainstream outlet is actually going to dig deeper on this because it gets very bizarre and very weird. But the old guy who said, you know, shoot me, I did it, they say he's a man by the name of George Zinn. And he's been linked to media coverage or arrests in connection with several high-profile incidents over the years, which aligns with common conspiracy theory claims about being a crisis actor, people allegedly hired to participate in witness stage events for narrative purposes. So there's a video of him talking about 9/11s and saying he was there when the towers got hit, and he knew right away it was 9/11. He knew right away, that it was Al-Qaeda that did it. And I watched that whole video, okay? Bizarre. Then he was also at the Salt Lake City, he did a Salt Lake City Marathon bomb threat in 2013, shortly after the Boston Marathon bombing. And he was arrested for making terrorist threats by email. And then he was also at the Charlie Kirk assassination where he was the guy who said, shoot me, I did it. Now, I'll show you. This is the guy right here. Now, is it possible that these are just lookalikes who were at, you know, these different events and it's not the same person? It's possible. But, you know, I would like, again, other than just conspiracy theorists talking about this online who genuinely have a bad track record and get things wrong all the time, I would like some mainstream outlet to maybe look into this and tell me if it's indeed true that this guy was at all these different places, all these different major events. He witnessed 9/11 happen. He was took part in a bomb threat in 2013 for the Salt Lake City Marathon, and he was at the Charlie Kirk shooting where he said, I did it, shoot me. So this is him. I'll play this video for you.
We don't know if it's him or not.
So I'll play it again. You could hear him saying, shoot me at the beginning. Listen, here he is.
We don't know if it's him or not.
Shoot me. That's what he's saying. Very, very weird. I would love for somebody to tell me, no, this is not the same person. And the 9/11 videos out there where he talks, it looks exactly like him, which is why I feel confident enough to bring this to you and, you know, without it making me look like a total idiot. Because I watched the video where he describes being there on 9/11. It looks exactly like him. So is it a different guy? I don't know, but very bizarre. Very bizarre. All right. According to Reuters, Tyler Robinson was living at home, at his parents' home at the time of the Charlie Kirk assassination. But according to Fox News, he was living in an apartment with a trans roommate. Okay? Massive contradiction in the story there. While he lives in an apartment and it's with a trans person, there's a debate whether or not they're actually trans. They could just be like a furry or something like that, right? But very weird that major news outlets totally diverge their stories on something as basic as where he lives, bro. Something as basic as where he lives. So Colin Rugg says, and this is based off Daily Mail stuff, the roommate of Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin has been identified as 22-year-old Lance Twiggs, according to the Daily Mail. The development comes as Fox and the New York Post say Tyler Robinson was living with a trans partner. It's unclear at the moment if Twiggs is the trans partner that Fox and the NYP are referring to. However, Twiggs' grandfather refused to deny the report. Quote, I don't want to comment on that. I'm not sure what his situation is exactly right now. That's what the grandfather said. After he was with the police, he's been at his house, and there's no way for us to contact him other than going over there. Twiggs reportedly handed over incriminating text messages to the FBI, according to the outlet. So The right says he's got a trans roommate, and it's so crazy because they're now saying this is officially a trans shooting, and they're blaming trans people for it. Meanwhile, even if you buy that this person is trans, which again, we actually don't know yet, but even if you say, okay, fine, they're trans, they're the ones who are cooperating with law enforcement and giving all the information on Tyler. So shouldn't you be thanking them in that scenario? Okay, as this person points out, the evidence that tabloid media has of the claim that the alleged shooter's alleged roommate is allegedly trans is a 2-year-old TikTok video where the roommate used a filter to look like a female anime character. Trash media is trash. So this is the person here, and they did this filter 2 years ago, and they're using that to say, oh, well, obviously you're trans. There is not much evidence that they are trans at the moment. It's not impossible, but there's just not much evidence to come to that conclusion. There's also a video here. I saw a video of this person talking, and they always seem to wear these, like, I don't know, animal type hats, which is why I say maybe it's possible they're furry or something. I think there might be new pictures coming out where they are dressed in like furry stuff. But trans, we don't know, and this is what they sound like.
For Christmas, I got one of those cookie boxes, but here's the magic part. Watch this. There are actually cookies inside of here, and I've never seen that in my life.
Okay. So there you go. That, again, I can't determine what they are or aren't based off that video, and I think it's kind of crazy that anybody is trying to pretend like they can. Exclusive. A day after Charlie Kirk was killed, the man now accused of the assassination joked to friends that his, quote, doppelganger was trying to get me in trouble. They thought it was funny until Tyler Robinson looked like the suspect until he was arrested. He was saying to people, oh my God, that guy looks like me, and he's trying to get me in trouble, but that's not me. That's what he's saying. Also, he's not cooperating. He's not cooperating with the FBI, which means he's either insisting it wasn't him, or the FBI is trying to get him to admit something that he doesn't want to admit to, namely like, hey, you got to say you're left wing, and he's like, I'm not going to do that. Those are some possibilities, but they say he is not cooperating, which is very bizarre, especially with all the holes in this story that they're putting out there. All right, more. The FBI is investigating whether assassin Tyler Robinson had an accomplice when he fired the single fatal shot that killed conservative influencer Charlie Kirk. Agents are reviewing footage showing 22-year-old Robinson speaking into a doorbell camera about the murder shortly after fleeing the Losi Center at Utah Valley University. That's weird. So now let's go through some of what was misinformation that came out. People thought it was true, then it wasn't true. Myself included, by the way. Some of this stuff I thought was real. Turns out it wasn't real. Tyler Robinson never once donated to Trump. It was someone with the exact same name who lives in the exact same zip code, but that person is 55 years old. That person donated to Trump. So he never donated to Trump. There's zero evidence that, at least to this point, that Lance Twiggs is trans. He has a deep voice and posts normal boarding and Rocket League content. Tyler Robinson was never a registered Republican. He was registered to vote, but not registered as a party member, so he was unaffiliated. The reporting that said he's unaffiliated was correct. The reporting that said he was a Republican is wrong. Again, that's probably this other person with the same name that lives in the same zip code, the 55-year-old. That person's probably the registered Republican. There's zero evidence he was ever part of DSA. That was a different suspect of 4chan, so they were trying to, again, pin this to the left, so they blamed DSA. There's zero evidence he was an active Mormon, though his family did post LDS content in the past. And then this person says, maybe hold off on your hot takes for 5 seconds. All right, so then we also have this. New York Times. After he murdered Charlie Kirk, killer told his friends on Discord he heard the ammo had something about trans stuff on it. Robinson was watching the FBI try to pin it on the trans community instead of focus on and locating him. The government came out and said, oh, we have these Discord messages, and clearly Tyler was working with leftist groups. So now we have to infiltrate and take down these leftist groups and hold them accountable too. Well, Discord immediately came out and said, that is just factually wrong. Discord had already discredited the statements that Tyler planned the attack with leftist groups or his roommate on Discord. And they go into detail about how that's not remotely true at all. So there's now multiple things that the FBI and the government just flat out makes up or totally gets wrong or completely misinterprets, right? All right, so now let's go to, here is what Tucker says. Tucker was friends with Charlie Kirk and talked to him regularly. And here's some of what he said on Megyn Kelly's show. Watch.
He was one of the only people, I mean, truly one of the only people to go to the president whom he loved. He loved Donald Trump, like personally as well. And I think the president really loved him in a real way. But he was one of the only people to go to the Oval Office and say, sir, I totally understand and think Iran's really bad, but a war with Iran is not, is something that could really hurt our country. I mean, boy, that was an unpopular position. He didn't need to express it. Oh, of course. And he did it again. He didn't have some weird agenda. He wasn't mad at anybody. He was for his country, and he was for doing the right and wise and difficult thing. And he said that. He went to the Oval Office to say that. He took massive massive abuse from his own donors, which is also something that you don't see people. And he loved his donors. It wasn't a hostile thing, but they had a different view. A lot of them, not all, but a lot. And they expressed it to him in a very intense way. I know because he showed me.
So Tucker's saying Charlie Kirk lobbied Trump not to attack Iran. And then Charlie's donors who donate to TPUSA, the billionaires, got really pissed at him and basically told him, hey, shut the fuck up and fall in line. This is what Tucker's saying. And he says he's seen the messages that Charlie showed him of these pissed off donors who are like, you better fall in line.
And he said, look, I understand your perspective. This is my perspective, and we're going to do what we think is the right thing, the wise thing.
In that way, too, he was the voice of young people. I mean, there are no young people in the country anymore supporting this war and wanting Israel to continue its bombing campaign. That's just the truth. Look at the polls. And he was in touch with them. And even where his own opinion may have differed from their opinion, he felt like he owed it to them to bring their message to the sitting president of the United States. I mean, that's what's been snuffed out.
Well, as he has been, unfortunately, but he was one of the very few people I have met who combined a love for everyone involved with strong views. So again, he was not animated by anything creepy or weird. I mean, you knew him intimately, so you know this is true. If you talk to him off camera, he would say, I love whoever I'm talking about, but I think this is wrong. It's immoral. It's bad for everybody involved, both sides. And he would say that, and he could say that because it was sincere. It was completely sincere, but I cannot overstate the amount of attacks he took privately over this, absolutely for real. And having lived in Washington most of my life and seen people run nonprofits, I've never met one who was willing. Stand up is too strong. He wasn't confrontational, but he would just say, no, I'm sorry that you feel that way, but I think this is the right thing. The people we represent, which is mostly young people, they believe this, and I believe it also. It was brave, but loving at the same time. And I'm not sure he made a lot of headway, by the way. I mean, I think he made real enemies in doing that, but his view didn't change. Anyway.
So that's what Tucker says. Clearly, he's sort of hinting there, winking and nodding that I don't know, man, a lot of people were really fucking pissed at him because he was lobbying Trump not to go to war with Iran. That's clearly what he's getting at. Now, at the same time, we have this outlet called the Gray Zone. Now, in my opinion, the Gray Zone is hit or miss. I think sometimes they do great work. I think sometimes they miss the mark big time. Having said that, they have a report that just came out, and they say the following. Charlie Kirk refused Netanyahu funding offer, was frightened by pro-Israel forces before death, friend reveals. A Trump insider and longtime friend of Charlie Kirk tells the Gray Zone how the assassinated conservative leader's turning point on Israeli influence provoked a private backlash from Netanyahu's allies that left him angry and afraid. The source said anxiety spread within the Trump administration after an apparent Israeli spying operation was uncovered. Jesus. Charlie Kirk rejected an offer earlier this year from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to arrange a massive new infusion of Zionist money into his Turning Point USA organization, America's largest conservative youth association, according to a longtime friend of the slain commentator speaking on the condition of anonymity. The source told the Gray Zone that the late pro-Trump influencer believed Netanyahu was trying to cow him into silence as he began to publicly question Israel's overwhelming influence in Washington and demanded more space to criticize it. In the weeks leading up to his September 10th assassination, Kirk had come to loathe the Israeli leader, regarding him as a bully, the source said. Kirk was disgusted by what he witnessed inside the Trump administration, where Netanyahu sought to personally dictate the president's personnel decisions and weaponize Israeli assets like billionaire donor Miriam Adelson to keep the White House firmly under its thumb. According to Kirk's friend, who also enjoyed access to President Donald Trump and his inner circle, Kirk strongly warned Trump last June against bombing Iran on Israel's behalf. Charlie was the only person who did that, they said, recalling how Trump barked at him in response and angrily shut down the conversation. The source believes the incident confirmed, in Kirk's mind, that the president of the U.S. had fallen under the control of a malign foreign power and was leading his own country into a series of disastrous conflicts. By the following month, Kirk had become the target of a sustained private campaign of intimidation and free-floating fury by wealthy and powerful allies of Netanyahu, figures he described in an interview as Jewish leaders and stakeholders. He was afraid of them, the source emphasized. At TPUSA, the rift with Israel widens. Kirk was 18 years old when he launched TPUSA in 2012. From its inception, his career was propelled by Zionist donors who showered his youth organization with money through neoconservative outlets like David Horowitz Freedom Center. He repaid his wealthy backers over the years by unleashing a relentless fire hose of anti-Palestinian and Islamophobic diatribes, accepting propaganda trips to Israel and sternly shutting down nationalist forces, challenging his support for Israel during TPUSA events. In the Trump era, few American Gentiles had proved more valuable to the self-proclaimed Jewish state than Charlie Kirk. But as Israel's genocidal assault on the besieged Gaza Strip drove an unprecedented backlash within grassroots right-wing circles, where only 24% of younger Republicans now sympathize with Israel over the Palestinians, Kirk began to shift. At times, he toed the Israeli line, spreading disinformation about babies beheaded by Hamas on October 7th and denying the famine imposed on the population of Gaza. Yet he simultaneously ceded to his base wondering aloud if Jeffrey Epstein was an Israeli intelligence asset, questioning whether the Israeli government allowed the October 7th attacks to proceed in order to advance long-term political goals, and parroting narratives familiar to his most vociferous critic on the right, streamer Nick Fuentes. This July, at his TPUSA Action Summit, Kirk provided a forum for the right-wing grassroots to vent its fury about Israel's political hammerlock on the Trump administration. There, speakers from former Fox News stalwarts Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly to anti-Zionist Jewish comedian Dave Smith denounced Israel's blood-soaked assault on the besieged Gaza Strip, branded Jeffrey Epstein an Israeli intelligence asset, and openly taunted Zionist billionaire like Bill Ackman for getting away with scams despite having no actual skills. So this goes on, and they go on to say that Israel was caught putting spying devices on Trump's vehicles, and that Trump is actually afraid of Israel too. That's what this piece goes on to say. All right, then we have this. This came from the New York Post, said Charlie Kirk and Rabbi Powell talked for hours before his death. Quote, he was in a combative mood. So people are interpreting this different ways. Some people are saying, well, look, obviously he was still a very close ally of Israel because this guy is literally an Israeli rabbi, and this guy was literally teaching him, here's how you respond to pro-Palestine people. Here's what you say to defend Israel effectively. So that's what some people are saying. Other people are looking at this and they're saying, okay, this is the state of Israel dispersing a rabbi to try to get Charlie Kirk to fall in line, and Charlie Kirk was combative with them, basically meaning like he wasn't buying the BS and he wasn't going to parrot all the talking points they wanted him to parrot. Like almost like a last warning type thing, like, hey, you're going to repeat these talking points or else. So that's how other people are looking at it. Then we get how the administration is using this, right? The FBI, in coordination with state agencies, has formally opened investigations into multiple leftist organizations in Utah for possible advanced knowledge of the Charlie Kirk incident. There's fucking zero evidence that any left-wing organizations were involved, and they know that. They're lying. They know they're lying. They just want to take down any and all left-wing organizations, and now they see it as an opportunity. It's the shock doctrine. Naomi Klein talked about this. They're going to do the thing they wanted to do anyway. That's what this is, right in front of our eyes. Yes, it was like their Reichstag fire. That's what it is. And so here they are, and they're acting on it. All right. We have this psychopath, Stephen Miller. Here he is.
And let me tell you something I've not shared with anybody, but the last message that Charlie Kirk gave to me before he joined his creator in heaven was he said that we have to dismantle and take on the radical left organizations in this country that are fomenting violence.
What a coincidence. The thing that you wanted to do, Charlie Kirk, his last thing he said to you was, do that thing that you've always wanted to do, sir.
That was the last message that he sent me before that assassin stole him from all of us. And we are going to do that under President Trump's leadership. I don't care how. It could be a RICO charge, a conspiracy charge, conspiracy against the United States, insurrection, but we are going to do what it takes to dismantle the organizations and the entities that are fomenting riots, that are doxing, that are trying to inspire terrorism.
Bringing up doxing is mental because there is a whole giant outlet that is now dedicated to doxing anybody and everybody who even mildly criticized Charlie, even people who said, I condemn the murder fully and completely, but I'm not going to pretend like he didn't have horrible politics. He did. Even people who just say that are getting doxed. And here they are. It's perpetual victimhood stuff. At the same time, they do one of the most oppressive plans you've ever seen in your life. I mean, this is literally like, let's just destroy the left totally and completely and use this as our excuse to do it. That's what this is.
Acts of wanton violence. It has to stop. And my message is to all of the domestic terrorists in this country spreading this evil hate. You want us to live in fear? We will not live in fear, but you will live in exile. Because the power of law enforcement under President Trump's leadership will be used to find you, will be used to take away your money, take away your power, and if you've broken the law, to take away your freedom, Sean.
Yeah, they're trying to make this country a one-party state. That's what they're doing. They're trying to make this country a one-party state. It's actively happening right now. That's what it is. All right, now I just want to show you, here's this person's thoughts as a TikToker. He had some interesting thoughts. Let me play you this.
The casing on the shot that ended Charlie Kirk's life was engraved with a 12-year-old furry-bashing meme. Notice his bulge, ooh woo, what's that? Which tells us an important thing. This assassination was a shitpost. That is the lens to analyze it through. Another of the casings references a video game, Helldivers 2, and a specific bomb that you could send on your enemies in the game with the command up, right, down, down, down. This command line sort of became a meme in image boards where it would be deployed to kind of represent, ending an argument, but almost more so as just like, if you know, you know. And that sort of signals the in-group there. Another of the 4 casings references Bella Ciao, which is an Italian anti anti-fascist anthem from the World War II era that has stuck around and remained very popular online. It's been used both in left and right-wing political contexts, and it's used in a lot of video games. And then the fourth and final shell casing was engraved with, "If you're reading this, you're gay, LMAO." This was a shitpost. It was designed to be maximally disruptive and incomprehensible, cloaked in layer upon layer of irony so that nobody would know what he really meant unless they were our guy. This performs a kind of nihilism that plays really, really well on particular image boards and Discord servers where this guy spent most of his life. And I say most of his life because that furry meme is from 2013. He was 10 years old when it was first posted and became popular. He, like you and I, grew up alongside this part of the internet that trickled out through the other platforms that we went on and has actually informed and driven a lot of our politics. Half of the administration right now is content creators. And all of the guys who are wearing masks, going out on these deportation raids, the guys who are staffers of Republican members of Congress in these different executive departments, the guys who are 19 years old called in by Elon to Doge things, these are all Reddit kids. These are all guys who were on 4chan in 2013, laughing at that furry meme. Now, the question everybody's asking is, was this kid a groiper? And the question everybody's parents are asking is, what is a groiper? So groipers are the most extreme fringe of this kind of image board nihilistic culture that I'm talking about. They're led by Nick Fuentes, who is a content creator and a streamer, and they really are about transgressing any boundary that exists. They are like explicitly white nationalists, really bad, horrible people. The name groiper originates from this variant of Pepe the Frog, which comes about in the late 2010s, and these guys adopt it as a kind of collective self-portrait. They make it their profile picture, they make it their moniker. There was the Groiper War of 2019, in which Nick Fuentes and his people trolled Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA, showing up at these debate events and asking questions that would push Kirk to say things that were even more extreme than Kirk was already saying. So where Charlie Kirk took like one step toward these kind of white or Christian nationalist ideas, the Groipers took two steps. They demanded that he make the subtext text. One post people have been citing as proof of the Groiper hypothesis is this one from his mother's Facebook that shows him dressed up as a meme for Halloween. It seems like the meme is Gopnik Pepe, which is a 4chan meme to my understanding, but I don't quite associate it with Poll, which is like the political board on 4chan that most people are talking about it. I see it more as like a K meme and sort of like a rare Pepe type thing. But again, like many Pepe or Groiper memes, the core of this is a lonely male figure in sort of an immiserated landscape looking sad. And that's part of the story I wish more people were talking about. What's driving our political violence isn't just polarization, where one side is getting more radical and kind of undermining democracy, nor is it algorithms, like some have said, that are like pickling the brains of young people. It is that feeling, which these Pepe memes represent, of you're always going to be alone, you're never going to have a future, and you're never going to have a voice. And that feeling, which is by no means rare or unusual in our society today, collides with a particular set of circumstances. This long entrenched nihilistic online tradition, the ready availability of firearms, and the increasing derangement of mainstream discourse, this ambient sense of like tension and volatility that exists in the air to produce stuff like this. And we're going to see more and more of it unless those root causes are addressed and unless we find a way to offer a better future to people.
All right, then we have Fox News. And they're up to their old tricks. Their old tricks are, I don't know, find a way to blame trans people. And these people are working overtime to do that. And it's bordering on incitement the way they talk about them. Listen.
But the fact that the boyfriend slash roommate slash partner is, transitioning and the transgender movement just seems to be extremely...
By the way, we don't know that that's true, just for the record.
...problematic these days. And many of the mass shootings that we're seeing in this instance, it was the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
Incredible. By the way, the person was debating Charlie Kirk when he got shot. They were actually debating this exact issue. And the guy was saying, how many trans shooters have there been within the past however long? I don't remember the time frame he said. But Charlie Kirk said too many. And the guy said, there's been 5. And the guy was going to go on to say that over the past, 5 years, decade, whatever it's been, that we've had 6,000 mass shootings. Out of 6,000, 5 have been trans. And the right is now all in on trying to pretend like there's this epidemic of trans shooters. When, look, if we're being honest, we all know the demographic breakdown of the people who usually are particularly the school shooters. Then we have this cope. End Wokeness says, from a regular middle-class family, good grades, went off to college, became an extremist Antifa killer. Pedro Gonzalez says, Tyler Robinson went to an essentially conservative college in a very conservative part of an already conservative state as an engineering major and then dropped out after 1 semester. He wasn't radicalized by college. His soul was poisoned online in group chats and dark subcultures, but these people don't care about any of that. They just want to make you angry, not try to understand anything or get to the root of things. So there's the other thing. It's all about, if they're not blaming trans people, they're trying to find a way to blame leftists. If they're not blaming leftists, they're trying to find a way to blame college. So here we have another example right here. A Fox host says, you heard the family member say this man has become more political in recent years. What did he do in recent years? He went to college. That is where kids are getting radicalized, not just online. Our campuses are where a lot of radicalization, hate, and intolerance starts from. As this person says, that hotbed of leftist militancy, the electrical apprenticeship program at Utah's Dixie Technical College, which he went to for less than a semester during COVID, so he was mostly at home. They're just grasping at straws, bro. Again, on the trans issue, look at this. Comparison of cisgender and transgender mass shooters. Yellow represents trans shooters, 1. Green represents cisgender shooters, all the rest of them. And here you have, again, this is the New York Post, basically inciting violence against trans people, trying to blame all trans people. Charlie Kirk's assassination, latest shooting committed by trans people and advocates. Trans people and advocates. That's insane. So the person who is fully complying with law enforcement and turning in Tyler, somehow that person is guilty. It's out of this world, man. Out of this world. Murders by politically motivated left-wing and right-wing killers, grouped by decade. What do you see? So here's the actual data. And by the way, the methodology and everything is right under here in this link. But here are the numbers. And it is overwhelmingly right-wing political violence that makes up the majority of political violence. The left is not even close. It's not even remotely close. All right, more. Another outlet, here's who they're trying to blame. It's like we're back in fucking 1999 again, y'all. They are trying to blame gamers. Somehow they're blaming video games.
A strong link to video games, online video games. And I think something of the generation, these individuals are around 22 years old. This is something that is very common for them, gaming. And we see in the FBI and in many investigations, a lot of these people get involved in this fantasy world and they're in these video games, playing these games, and then it turns into a reality. And that, deciphering between the fantasy world and the reality, that is something that they will definitely be looking into from a behavioral analysis perspective.
That's incredible. Guys, they've done like 1,000 studies on this, and every time the response is super clear that there is zero connection between video games, even violent video games, and violence in the real world. Japan is like one of the top countries when it comes to playing video games, even violent video games, and they have like next to no gun violence. There's zero fucking connection. How readily available guns are is like the biggest piece of the puzzle, by the way. But look, if you want to have a conversation about like the dark underbelly of the internet, I'm definitely here for that conversation. Clearly, there's a lot of weird stuff going on 4chan and on the dark web, and like, yes, there could be a case to be made for radicalization, particularly if you start using the internet from when you're really, really young, as this guy did, and just gets addicted to it and just goes deeper and deeper into like the worst parts of the internet. There's a conversation there, but again, to bring up video games is just factually wrong. And then finally, I'll leave you with this. Quote, "White man fight back" chant breaks out at Charlie Kirk vigil. Who's going to tell these guys that the guy who shot Charlie Kirk is a white man? Not only that, you had these people marching, holding up, a picture of Charlie Kirk, and one of the people was wearing a t-shirt where on the back it said National Socialism, which literally is just a Nazi. So here we go.
Man fight back! White 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 man fight back!
That's crazy. So you can be a Nazi who's at a vigil for Charlie Kirk wearing a Nazi shirt. You could be chanting "White men fight back." And this is all fine and dandy. Nobody will even bat an eyelash at it. Meanwhile, if you condemn the shooting of Charlie Kirk but say, "I also disagreed with him," you get fired. We're going to do a separate segment on that in just a second, but here are all of your updates. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.